Hey guys, Andrew Henderson from Nomad Capitalist here in Abood at a villa with some Nomad Capitalist insiders, and had an interesting dinner last night. Great dinner at a restaurant called Bamboo India, and would highly recommend it. Met up with someone who was asking me about setting up companies in Asia, and specifically talked about Hong Kong, talked a little bit about Singapore, and so the question came up, should I set up a company in Singapore? Which my response is, I don't know. Well, you're the expert. You're the Nomad Capitalist. Well, in order to figure out where you should set up a company, I said, I need to know some details about the situation. I need to know what kind of business you have. I need to know what your goals are, what your revenues are. Lots of details. So anyone who wants to sell you a Singapore company or any other kind of company off the shelf, I would suggest being very, very cautious of that person, because Singapore company can be a great company for a lot of folks, but not a great company for many other folks. And so this one-size-fits-all approach, I think, is way too prevalent in the offshore world. Let me explain specifically about Singapore. Singapore is obviously a highly developed, highly stable, super transparent country, very well viewed, very well respected. They cooperate with everybody around the world. They're even now doing bank information sharing with a lot of other countries. So they're no rogue state. They're very well respected, and as we talked about in a previous video on offshore countries to avoid these days, Singapore is the exact opposite. While you should be avoiding companies in the Seychelles and stuff like that, I'm not so sure that you need to go as far as Singapore, and here's why. Singapore is a great country to set up a company if you're going to hire people and you're going to be doing business and you're going to have a fixed location and you're going to have an office and you're starting the next Facebook or the next whatever, and you're all fixed. And if you do that, you can get a residence permit, by the way, which is pretty cool. Singapore residence is highly coveted. But if you're running a digital nomad style company where you're traveling around, you're not having a fixed base, you're not going to live in Singapore full time, you don't need a staff all in the same office. Singapore has some taxes. And they're not super high taxes, but they have taxes nonetheless, and it goes up to about 17%. There are a lot of exemptions, there are a lot of exclusions, there are a lot of deductions, but you're still going to pay tax, you're still going to do audits, you're still going to go through all of that. And so, for me, if you're a digital nomad, jumping from one frying pan to another frying pan isn't necessarily the best thing to do. What I talk about at Nomad Capitalist is the idea that let's solve the problems and not create new ones. So, if the problem is paying high tax, how can we get it down to 0 or 5% tax? Something less certainly than 17. How can we get the tax down? And also, how can we give ourselves more freedom? And also, how can we give ourselves stability? There are countries that have much lower taxes, that have the same level of stability as Singapore. And so, quite frankly, I look at Singapore as a place where I say, if you want an office, if you want a place of business in a safe place where you would be comfortable living, you can hire smart people, you can bring people in from all around the world, everyone will want to come there. It's a fantastic place, and they've got grants and they've got lots of cool opportunities for that person. If you're looking to travel, if you're looking to be nomadic, if you're looking just to set up a one-man shop, I don't think it's the best place, particularly because it's not exactly a cheap place to set up shop. It's not exactly easy. You need local people and you need different stuff. And so because of that, the process is not as cheap as other countries that I sometimes recommend. I love Singapore. I bank in Singapore. I say great things about Singapore. I'm not sure that setting up your company there is always the best decision. It probably requires further review, and for the average nomadic entrepreneur these days, I think that there are better options out there.